The death of a family member is often a time of significant turning point of a family, and family members may become more united or drift apart as a result. I think it is important for family members to see this as opportunity to recapture the precious moment for each other and start a new journey. As architects, it is important for us to use architecture to facilitate these journeys. Therefore, I introduce you this proposal of the hospice, not just as an architecture, but as a spiritual media to mark their last story, or the first story. In order to do so, I need to transform a conventional hospice into a series of narrative space. I started from one of the most important elements of a hospice, which is home-like feeling. I converted a conventional North American house into a single storyline by deconstructing its programs and find the equivalent programs of a hospice to match the storyline. This storyline can be considered as the storyline for residents, since this storyline is purely about the concept of home. However, there are other programs and events are also relevant. For example, the events that relates to staff or relates to the family member of these residents. In this case, there seems to be two different storylines. One is the resident storylines, which can be considered as the past, the memory world, because we all know the storyline is going to end eventually, and there's barely nothing we can do to change the result of the storyline. Another one can be considered as the real world, because the people here are dealing with the real world issues, and they are standing on a higher plane, absorbing the storylines, and also can barely do anything to it to change the result of the resident storylines. But there are some moments these two storylines are intersect, and people can go back forward, and the people from real world can go back forward between these two storylines. And in this case, timeline and storylines are intertwined. To transform this idea into architecture, I first started laying out the program from the resident storylines. I choose the typical and conventional form of housing to represent these programs, in order to create an atmosphere of neighborhood to represent the real home for the residents. These programs are clustered around the natural forest, forming a curve in order to maximize the natural beauty in the reserves, and also to keep the maximum distance from the main road and all the distractions. These programs are the great room and lobbies, the back of the house, and the clusters of the residence units. These programs can find the equivalent programs in a conventional house and can be considered as what a residence of hospice will likely to use. And here are the figure ground drawings represent the location of these programs. Starting from the great room of the lobby, this program can be considered as the living room of a home. In this space, the living room, kitchen, dining, reception, and other spaces are placed together without a barrier in between, in order to maximum the welcoming atmosphere. The huge blue geometry intersecting the space also give it a relaxing and interesting feeling in terms of spatial quality. Walking into the linear glass hallway. This linear glass hallway representing the linear direction of timeline, or so-called storylines. At the same time, It is noticeable that the dimension of this hallway is designed to be capable for the residents to stop at any time and anywhere they want to absorb the natural view. Moving forward in the linear hallway, at the end of the hallway is the residential units clusters. Four different units buildings are placed in all different directions, creating an atmosphere of street or neighborhood, which is actually formed by different buildings instead of a hospice. The real-world timeline is formed by 3 different programs. This program looks drastically different from the resident storylines. This helps to extract people from the memory world and go back to the real world they're belonging. These forms are also very creative and dynamic, as it represents all the possibilities of the real world compared to the memory or the past. These programs are spiritual support, residential family support, and administration areas, as they need to work as the gateway for people to escape from the sad real memory world and go back to the real world to regulate stimulation. Notice that only these programs have access to the 2nd floor or even the 3rd floor in order to completely separate from the memory world and also to help people have a better resting. Each program has its own logic forming to satisfy its own specific needs. The forming logic behind the administration of the units is quite straightforward and simple. By elevating the platforms, it is able to absorb the best natural view, and by twisting the platform, it is able to optimize the natural sunlight use without overheating. The program of office unit is connected by a series of staircases. This staircase not only making the spatial quality more interesting and dynamic, the bright color it's using, the open atrium it created, also helps to build up a energetic and relaxed atmosphere for this unit, which is important for the hospice staff. The Flexible Education Center is located at the top of the office unit. This makes sure that the study space has the best of open natural view and ideal natural light. More importantly, it keeps everything far from the sadness memory world and focusing purely on the study. The spiritual support space is composed by 2 oppositely designed spaces. The flexible space at the bottom is designed to maximize the privacy and block people's view, while the meditation space at the top maximize people's view and the sense of the openness. The entrance of the spiritual support space is curved to maximize the privacy. This curve also creates a tiny pocket park next to it, which provides an interesting and stunning view for the visitor. The flexible event space is capable for holding a small funeral and other spiritual or religious activities. The space contains both inside and outside parts, since there are some religion and natural and cultural activities requires outdoor space. The meditation space on the 2nd floor is also designed to be as anonymous as possible in order to avoid conflicts between different religions and cultures. The space is designed to use only natural lights and natural views to create the sense of calm and for meditations. The triangle on the wall is the section cut between this space and the building adjacent to it, and as it represents the connections between the spiritual and the physical world. The family supported space has the most complicated forming logic above all of them, inspired by the logic of origami, which is using 3-dimensional grid to organically connect different geometry together. I tried to create a series of 3-dimensional grid based on the original roof of residential units. By trying the different possibilities between the nodes of the three-dimensional grids, this roof explores the possibility between a series of roofs, as well as the possibility of what a roof can be. The results of this exploration is quite a success. There seems to have a series of different spaces created under one single space. Meanwhile, all of these spaces appear to have both identity from a conventional building and the roof. People is able to experience multiple space at one moment. This explores the possibility of what a roof can be, and more importantly, it recalls to the concept of timeline or storyline intertwine. The site and building is restricted by a lot of rules, and design of this building achieve all of these requirements. The footprint of this building is designed to be within the setback, and the total footprint area of this building is 1,698 square meters, which is under the maximum allowable coverage of the site. The choice of the main entrance of this building is at the right place as suggested by the building code, and also the turning radius of both the front entrance and the back house has satisfied the minimum needs of fire truck and a small van. Meanwhile, the design of parking lot and other circulation path also satisfy the requirements of the green space reservation. On top of that, the design of the building also draws the connections from these requirements to have a better response to all of the building code laws. The mechanical room of this building is placed at the basement of the back of the house. The location of the back of the house is chosen to be almost at the middle of this building in order to have an average delivery of energy and HVAC system. Both the family support unit and the spiritual support unit has only 2 floors. Therefore, there's no need to have a different HVAC shaft at the second floor of these two programs. The ventilation can be achieved through the floor or through the wall. There is a separated HVAC shaft in the office area since there's a 3rd floor. The shaft is placed right next to the elevator core in order to satisfy the needs of twisting form. The building also satisfied the minimum egress distance required as building code, and the specific place of the egress door is shown as the plan above. There's also separate doors on the second. There's also separated egress door for every program on the 2nd floor of these buildings. Last but not least, the early version of the landscape design of this building is revealed. There is an organic path designed to surround the entire building to satisfy all the needs from both residents and the visitors. However, in the future, there's still more need to be revealed for the landscape. The future design of the landscape will mainly focusing on the specific selection of the vegetation and plants in order to have a better response to the green reservation area.